What if everything you thought about happiness, success, and what truly matters in life was wrong? What if the secret to a meaningful, fulfilling life wasn't about doing more, being more, or having more, but about caring less? Not in a careless way, but in a radically selective, liberating way. Welcome to the world of Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. A brutally honest guide that flips self-help advice on its head and throws convention out the window. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by life's endless noise, by the pressure to always be positive, or by the never-ending chase for validation, this is the book summary you need to listen. Buckle up as we dig into each chapter, unfiltered and unapologetic, and learn how the art of not giving a fuck might just be the most powerful skill you'll ever master. Chapter 1. Don't try. Let's kick things off with a punch, because that's exactly what Mark Manson does. The first chapter smacks you with Charles Bukowski's tombstone motto, don't try. It's less about laziness and more about radical honesty. Manson uses Bukowski's life, filled with rejection, alcohol, and minimal self-censorship, as a prime example. Bukowski wasn't chasing approval or trying to live up to anyone's standards. He accepted himself, imperfections, failures, and all. It's this acceptance that eventually led to success, not obsessively striving for it. Mark challenges the classic self-help narrative. Most advice tells us to visualize success, but focusing on what we don't have only makes us notice the gap, endlessly fueling dissatisfaction. Manson introduces us to the feedback loop from hell. We're anxious about being anxious, guilty for feeling bad, and stuck in a never-ending spiral. It's not apathy that he's advocating, though. Indifference isn't confidence. Instead, it's about being comfortable being different, finding importance beyond adversity, and always choosing consciously what truly deserves your attention. The big takeaway? Stop giving a fuck about everything. Reserve your worries for things that matter, your genuine values, your immediate reality, and the actions that make you proud. Embrace your flaws. Don't obsess over fixing every weakness, and let go of the relentless pressure to be extraordinary. When you finally accept your negative experiences as a natural part of life instead of something to avoid, you might just find real peace. Chapter 2. Happiness is a problem. Have you ever wondered why, even when things are going well, lasting happiness seems just out of reach? Welcome to the paradox of happiness. Mark Manson tells us straight, happiness is not a destination. It's a problem. It's not meant to be solved. And the more you chase it, the less of it you feel. The chapter opens with the story of young Buddha, a prince shielded from all suffering. When he first glimpses pain, sickness, and death, his world unravels. From this, Manson draws the lesson that happiness is built on solving the problems we care about. Our culture makes us believe happiness should be effortless, but in truth, challenge and adversity are inevitable. If you're seeking a problem-free life, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Manson's antidote? Don't run from suffering. Instead, choose your struggles purposefully. Happiness comes from solving meaningful problems, not having none at all. Your emotional state isn't always a reliable compass either. Negative feelings aren't always bad, and positive feelings can sometimes be misleading. What matters is what you're willing to suffer for. That's the real key to fulfillment. So, the next time life throws you a curveball, ask yourself, is this a problem worth caring about? If yes, dive in. If not, let it go. Chapter 3. You are not special. Hold on to your hats, because Manson pulls no punches here. In a world obsessed with exceptionalism, he tells us flat out, you are not special. Ouch, right? But this is where things get interesting. The story of Jimmy, who is always the hero in his own mind, showcases how constant positive thinking and the cult of self-esteem can lead to a sense of entitlement, blame shifting, and chronic dissatisfaction. Mark deconstructs the idea that everyone must be extraordinary. The self-esteem movement of the 1960s and 70s promised happiness through constant praise and participation awards. The result? A generation uncomfortable with their vulnerabilities, unwilling to accept averageness, and endlessly striving for attention. If everyone is special, then paradoxically, no one is. What Manson wants you to realize is that accepting your ordinariness frees you from the crippling weight of impossible expectations. You don't have to be a world changer to live a good life. Real satisfaction comes from honestly assessing yourself, embracing your flaws, and finding pride in facing up to your negative traits, not just inflating your ego over positive ones. This chapter is a wake-up call to cherish humility and authenticity over ego-driven specialness. Chapter 4: The Value of Suffering. Here's a question that will shift your perspective. What are you suffering for? The story of Hiro Onoda, a Japanese soldier who kept fighting World War II for decades after it ended, is both tragic and profound. Onoda's suffering, once infused with purpose, eventually became pointless when values shifted in post-war Japan. Manson uses this to ask a crucial question. Are you enduring pain for something that actually matters? Or are you clinging to outdated or unworthy values? This chapter invites you to reflect on the underlying causes behind your struggles. Suffering is inevitable, but not all suffering is created equal. Meaningful suffering, endured in the pursuit of genuine values, strengthens you and gives your life richness. On the other hand, pain endured for the sake of shallow, externally imposed values, material success, people-pleasing, always being right, leads ultimately to emptiness and regret. Manson challenges us to examine what we value and how we measure our success and failure. Choosing healthy, reality-based values, honesty, curiosity, kindness, leads to better problems and more rewarding suffering. Don't waste your limited fucks on vanity metrics or society's empty promises. Choose the hardships that help you grow and let the rest slide off your back. Chapter 5: You are always choosing. Here's a hard truth that's both terrifying and empowering. You are always choosing, whether you realize it or not. Manson explores the difference between fault and responsibility using the story of William James, a man who overcame severe personal adversity by deciding to take full responsibility for everything in his life. Even when circumstances aren't your fault, how you respond is always your choice. The magic happens when we accept this radical responsibility. It means no longer viewing ourselves as helpless victims of circumstances, but as empowered agents in our own stories. When you choose how you respond to problems, even ones you didn't create, you gain control. Avoiding this responsibility, on the other hand, grows resentment, bitterness, and passive suffering. Here's a practical example. If someone betrays your trust, it's their fault, but it's your responsibility to decide how you'll move forward. You can wallow in bitterness, close yourself off to future relationships, or learn and grow. This mindset is not easy, but it's the gateway to genuine empowerment. Every day, in big ways and small, you are choosing your reactions and your priorities. Make those choices count. Chapter 6: You're wrong about everything, but so am I. Let's embrace a fact most of us find scary. We're wrong about almost everything, all the time. Manson begins this chapter with examples of beliefs once universally held, like the sun revolving around the earth, that are now laughable. The process of growth isn't about moving from wrong to right. It's about moving from one version of wrong to a slightly less wrong version. This journey never stops. One of the most dangerous mindsets is the quest for certainty. Certainty shuts down curiosity and halts progress. Our mistakes, failures, and stumbles are not only inevitable, but vital for our development. Manson isn't making an argument for nihilism or for giving up. He's advocating for intellectual humility. Real wisdom comes from constantly questioning your beliefs, being ready to adjust them, and never assuming you've arrived at a final truth. He sums it up bluntly: if you can admit you're wrong, you open yourself to growth, connection, and authenticity. Otherwise, you're just digging your heels in and refusing the lessons life is trying to teach you. So next time you find yourself certain or dogmatic, pause and ask, what if I'm wrong? The healthiest people are those who are always slightly less wrong than they used to be. Chapter 7. Failure is the way forward. Are you afraid of failing? Good news. Failure is not just inevitable, it's essential. Manson recounts his own lucky break, graduating into the Great Recession, when there were no jobs and no way forward except through risk. He realized that success comes from a mountain of failures, and each failure is just a stepping stone toward real improvement. He draws an analogy to Picasso sketching a masterpiece in 2 minutes. When asked to explain, Picasso points out it took him 60 years to be able to draw it that quickly. Every expert, every successful creator is standing atop a heap of discarded attempts and embarrassing blunders. This is true for learning to walk as a child and for building an empire as an adult. Yet, most of us let the prospect of failure keep us frozen. Manson's message is simple but profound. The true measure of success is how persistent you are in facing failure, and the magnitude of your eventual success depends on how many times you've tried and failed. The child doesn't stop trying to walk, and neither should we ever stop trying, learning, or falling on our metaphorical faces. Action, not perfect planning, is what produces results. So fail fast, fail forward. And don't let your ego slow you down. Chapter 8. The Importance of Saying No. This chapter is dedicated to the liberating power of boundaries. It's tempting to always say yes, to avoid conflict, to maintain harmony, or to keep options open. But as Manson learned after years of world travel and serial commitment phobia, freedom is not about endless options, but about selective commitments and the courage to say no. Manson identifies a cultural aversion to rejection. We're taught to crave being liked, to shun confrontation, and to view commitment as limiting. But the truth is, without exclusion, nothing has value. If you stand for everything, you stand for nothing. By saying no to unhealthy relationships, unimportant invitations, fleeting distractions, you actually gain clarity and fulfillment. Boundaries are critical, not just to preserve your own well-being, but to build authentic relationships. True trust and intimacy can only grow where both parties respect each other's limits. Manson argues that rejecting some things and accepting the consequences is what forges your identity and distinguishes your priorities. Commitment becomes freeing when you choose it, and no becomes an empowering word. Chapter 9. And then you die. We've reached the grand finale, and Manson doesn't pull his punches. Death is the one guarantee in life, the great equalizer that gives every moment meaning. The chapter opens with Manson's personal story of losing a friend in an accident. For him, this tragedy sliced through the trivial worries and forced a reckoning. If we're all going to die, what really matters? This chapter draws inspiration from Ernest Becker's Denial of Death, highlighting our distinctly human tendency to feel anxiety about our mortality. Manson explains that our immortality projects, the drive to create, to leave a legacy, to construct meaning, are fueled by this fear. But instead of wasting energy on superficial achievements or chasing applause, He urges us to use our awareness of death as a clarifying force. When you fully accept your own mortality, you strip away what doesn't serve you and focus only on what is truly meaningful. It's not about being gloomy or nihilistic. It's about realizing that your f***s are limited. This insight frees you to live more boldly and more truly. With your brief window of existence, choose to spend your energy, love, and attention on what matters, because it all goes back in the box at the end. The art of not giving a f becomes, in some ways, the art of living deeply and dying well. So, knowing you have only so many f***s to give, where will you spend yours? Ending. The lasting message and call to action. So, what's the bottom line of Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***? It's this. Life is short. The list of things you can care about is even shorter. You only have so many f***s to give. Guard them fiercely and give them wisely. Manson's brutally honest worldview doesn't promise ease or perpetual happiness, and it certainly doesn't promise a glittery Instagram perfect existence. What it offers is far more valuable: a practical roadmap to authenticity, empowerment, and deep peace in a chaotic world. It reminds us that by letting go of trying to fix everything, please everyone, and be extraordinary at all costs, we unlock what matters most: a sense of control over our choices, deep meaning in our struggles, and courage in the face of our limits and mortality. Thank you for watching. If this chapter by chapter voiceover spoke to you, let us know in the comments. Share a moment when caring less actually helped you live more. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe for more unfiltered wisdom, and most importantly, start giving your fox a little more wisely from today onwards. Remember, in the end, you and only you get to decide what truly matters. Until next time, keep your feet on the ground, your head up, and your priorities clear. You are watching Talking Better, where wisdom speaks and you evolve.